Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you had a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I am excited for the things that Harbor has rolling out this year, and to kick us off, we have Connect Groups starting next week. So if you'd like to join one, text GROUPS to 84576, or you can go to our website at Harbor.Church.com for more information. And on January 17th, we're going to be hosting a Inside Harbor and membership class. If you don't know what that is, it's a way for you to get to know us, ask questions, find out who we are, or how you can even get involved. If you're interested, please go ahead and click on the link below and let us know that you're coming. With that, let's get into the message and have a great day.
Well, good morning, Harbor.Church. Thank you so much for being a part of today's services. Thanks for tuning in. If this is your first time watching one of our messages, or your first time at church or Harbor.Church, or maybe it's your first time in a long time, my name is Josh Adams. I'm the senior pastor here at Harbor.Church, and I'm thrilled that we get to spend a little time together. Make sure you drop a comment. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know what you're up to. We hope you're having a great time. If you're listening to this on the podcast, thank you for doing that. Thanks for just checking out what is going on, not just at Harbor.Church, but what God might have for you, for your life, from His Word. We're into a new year. This service is taking place the first Sunday of 2021. So, man, we're excited about, one, putting 2020 in the rearview mirror, but two, we're excited about what God might have for us. And I know a lot of people this time of year, they're thinking about their New Year's resolutions. So I thought we could start off with a quick question, being like not what your resolution is. If you want to, go ahead and drop that in the comments. Maybe you could even make it a prayer request, like, hey, I'm trying to do something new. Let us know. Tell us what you're up to. Tell us what you're doing. Maybe something you're praying about. But the question I have, as far as a survey, and it doesn't require you to reveal anything personal, it just has to do with the fact that this time of year, when people are making resolutions, a study found that most people their resolutions fall into one of two categories. Either they're trying to get in shape, maybe they're trying to lose weight, or they're trying to work out more, or they're just trying to get healthier, get their blood pressure down, something about, taking care of themselves. That's one category. Or their resolutions have to do with being better with their time, with making sure that they, add in a good hobby, or, maybe they start reading more, or start, making sure they don't want to be late for work, or don't want to miss any appointments, or they add in something, to their schedule, that something they've been meaning to do. They want to take a class or something, and so they've done that. So most resolutions fall into either something with your health or something with your priorities. And so I'm just going to ask it this way. What do you think is harder? And this can be about you. If you want to, make this personal, I'm talking to all you guys online. You can raise your hand or put up the hand emoji, or you can say me or whatever. Or you can just write which of these two you think is harder. Now, it can be harder for you, or you can say, I'm just voting for what I think society as in general struggles with. Is it weight management or time management? Is it harder to manage your weight and to do things to keep yourself healthy, or is it harder to do things to keep yourself organized and on time? And some of you are like, man, I struggle in both areas. And there's a few of you out there that are like, no, I don't struggle in either one of those. And we hate you. But for everybody else, I just want you to vote for one of those. What's harder, weight management or time management? Where do you think most people struggle? Either you yourself or other people. Put that in the comments. I kind of want to see what the poll is, what you guys think, because I think both are very difficult, and it depends. And like I said, some of us struggle with both of these things, both being healthy and being organized, and that's a lot of people's New Year's resolutions. They're setting these goals for themselves. And as we, kind of kick off the new year, man, there's so many things that we want for this next year. We want things to be better, and maybe some of them are personal. Maybe it's you're going to stop smoking. You're going to read your Bible more. Maybe it's you want to get a friendship back online, somebody you haven't connected with. Maybe it's you're going to go to the gym and work out. I don't know what your goals are, But this is always a chance to just kind of think of some new stuff. It's a new year, and so we have new goals. And I thought, if this is what the whole world can do this time of year, why can't you and I look at it from a spiritual context today? What if today we talked about what the new year looks like for us spiritually? What might be some new goals that we could set spiritually today? What do you think God, and this is where I want you just let's just jump into it, okay? What does God have for you this year that you didn't do in 2020? Maybe you've never done it before. Maybe you've thought about it or tried and then gave up, or maybe it's something brand new. But what is it that God has for you? What's your purpose? What did God create you for? Can you begin to accomplish that or live towards that goal in 2021, this new year? Can you do that now? And maybe you'd say, well, Pastor, I've been trying to do that for years, or I had a pretty good year last year. Well, praise God. That's awesome. Some of you out there going, yeah, I've never really thought about what God wants. I've always just thought about what I want. What do I want with my time? How do I want to be better? How much more could I have? And you haven't really stopped to ask yourself, God, what do you have for me? What do you want for me to do? And so as we have a new year, we get to celebrate the new year and we get to talk about new goals. And so today I want you just for a few minutes to think about a new year and a new spiritual goal that you might have. If you're going to do that though, and I have people ask me this all the time, what does God want me to do? Pastor, what do you think God's trying to tell me? And they're always struggling. And so I'm going to help you find what it is that God has for you, because it's not my decision. I'm not the Holy Spirit. You have to talk with God. You have to ask him what he has for you. And in order to do that, I think you need to ask yourself a few questions. So question number one is simply this. Are you available? If you want to have a new goal, if you want to hear from God, if you want God to give you something to do this year, I got to ask you, and you've got to determine, are you actually available? If you're available, then God can use you. Now, Bill Parcells gets credited for the line, and it gets overused a lot, but your best ability is your availability. And although Parcells gets the credit for that, I think that comes from the Bible. God often talks about He doesn't care about all the things that you think you're good at. He just cares about, are you willing to let him use you? God is the one that gives you your talents and your abilities. So he's not looking for like, oh, does this person have this or not? He can give you whatever he wants. He's looking for you to say, yes, I'm available. Use me. Call my name. God just asked me to do something and I'll go. He wants to know that you're willing to go forward. And so there's a couple examples of this in Scripture. One time God was looking for a prophet to send, and Ezekiel, the prophet Ezekiel, actually describes what it is that God is saying here and how God was searching for somebody. And he says it in Ezekiel chapter 22, in the second half of verse 30. It says, I searched for someone to stand in the gap. I was looking for somebody to stand in the gap in the wall so I wouldn't have to destroy the land. But I found no one. This is a very famous verse. I looked for someone to stand in the gap. There was a hole there. I wanted somebody to do a job, but I couldn't find anyone to do it. There's another verse in Isaiah. This is another prophet, and Isaiah says it this way in verse number 8. He says, then I heard the Lord asking, whom should I send as a messenger? And Isaiah gets a vision, and during this vision, the Lord is saying this, whom should I send as a messenger to the people? Who will go for us? And then Isaiah answers, here I am, send me. And this is modeled for us, and I've heard this verse a lot, and I don't know if you've ever heard it before or not, but man, what a powerful testimony to the life of Isaiah, a man that God uses in some really cool, miraculous ways through some really hard times. It doesn't come down to the fact that Isaiah was wicked smart or wicked cool or, man, he had tons of followers on Facebook. It wasn't about all of his popularity, all of his talents. It was about his availability. He basically makes himself qualified by saying, here I am, send me. God can do whatever he wants in your life. He can give you what you need. So nobody gets the excuse of saying, I don't have the talent, I don't have the ability, I don't have the skill set, I'm not smart enough, I'm not cool. You don't get any excuses. The only thing that's being asked of you is a willingness to go. God, here I am, send me. You want me to be a light in my workplace? You want me to do something radical in my family? You want me to start carrying the truth about you into my school or into my relationships? Here I am, send me. You want me to model love to the people that have no love? You want me to show forgiveness to the people who have stabbed me in the back? Here I am, send me. We won't do that because we say, oh, I'm just not strong enough. Oh, I just don't know enough. Oh, I haven't read the Bible enough. And we have all the reasons why we won't do it. But there is no reason why we can't do it except for the fact that we're not available. So here I am, send me. The question, I guess, would be this. And the main question is obviously, are you available? But the question I think that I have to ask myself is, am I paying attention to God calling my number? Because I don't know how many people have really stopped to listen to God going, hey, I need you. Hey, I want you. Hey, I need you to be available. Let me say it this way. Is there a time in your day where God can actually speak into your life? This is going to hurt a little bit, okay? But do you have any time in your life where you're just quietly talking to God where he can say, hey, I've got a mission for you? Where he can talk to his daughter, his son, you, and say, hey, I love you, and I want you to do this today. I want you to try this today. Are you available for him to actually give you your mission, to give you your goals? Some of you, you haven't stopped talking about what you want long enough to hear what he wants. You should be putting some praise emojis up or something. That should be speaking to somebody today. Are you available? Let me ask you this way. What does God have to do to get your attention? So are you available? Here's another question. Are you prepared? Because it's one thing to say, yeah, do whatever, but now once again, I'm not talking about your skill set. Preparation, what I'm asking here is, are you working towards being the best that you can be? Paul writes to his protege Timothy in 2 Timothy chapter 2, and he says this, Timothy, work hard so that you can present yourself to God and receive his approval. Be a good worker, one who doesn't need to be ashamed and who can correctly explain the word of truth. Be a good worker. Work hard, study. Be a good worker, one who does not need to be ashamed, who correctly explains the word of God. Correctly explains the word of God means somebody who's actively preparing their life. You're reading your Bible. You're studying what it is that God has for you. You're doing something to better yourself. It's not about your greed and your comfort. This is about your education. Are you preparing yourself? 1 Timothy, the first letter he writes to him, in chapter 4, verse number 7, so this is before this verse, but if you go back in time, the first letter he wrote, he says, don't waste time arguing over godless ideals, old wives' tales. Don't get all wrapped up in all the debates that people have. Instead, train yourself. There's once again preparation. Train yourself to be godly. He goes on and says, physical training is good, so hear that. Now, those of you that said weight management is a problem for me, get in the gym. Physical training is good, but it says, but training for godliness is much better. So yes, do that, that's good, but then go a step further and get spiritually in shape, promising benefits in this life and in the life to come. That's talking about the godliness, training in the stuff that's holy. Training as in, God, work in my soul. I need a spiritual workout. Break me, mold me, change me, pursue me. Make me step out of my comfort zone. You're supposed to train yourself. You're supposed to be working on preparing yourself as you deal with stuff and you keep saying yes to God. That's going through spiritual training. But not only are you supposed to train yourself, this is for any parents or grandparents out there. Look at what it says in Deuteronomy. Listen, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone, and you must love the Lord your God. This is a very famous verse. You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. And you must commit yourself wholeheartedly to these commands. God's given us commands. He says, you got to commit yourself. You got to get into it, dig into it, pursue this, make this something that is passionate for you, the stuff I'm giving you today. But then he says this, repeat them again and again to your children. So not only are you supposed to train yourself, but if God has given you a child or a grandchild or somebody that you get to influence, it's your job to train them to repeat in front of them, repeat it again and again, what it is that God's called us to do, to love him with all of our heart, all of our mind, all of our soul, to love God. That's what we're supposed to do. And how he gives us some examples. Talk to the kids. When you're at home, when you're on the road, when you're in the car is what he's talking about there. When you're going to bed, these are nighttime stories, Bible stories, prayer time. When you're getting up in the morning as you're getting ready for breakfast, tie them on your hands and wear them on your foreheads. This was something they would do. They would put this, the way that we like to find, Pinteresty quotes and put them up on Instagram and follow all this stuff. He's saying, get these things, these writings, the ones from God, not ones from people. Get the stuff from God and get them in front of your face all the time. Write them on the doorpost of your homes and on your gates. And some of you guys have this. I'm just talking about, it's just part of training, just getting what's in front of you. What you see all the time is going to be what gets ingrained in your brain. So are you available? Are you prepared? But then there's another question that you have to ask yourself is, are you determined? How badly do you want it? I wrote about this in one of the daily directionals this week. How badly do you want it? Are you determined to go forward? If God says, hey, here's your goal, do you have enough resolve in the tank? Do you have what it takes to go, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to wuss out. I'm not going to whine and complain. I'm not going to come up with all the reasons why, I shouldn't be forced to do this. But instead, I'm going to go, God, thank you for giving me a mission. I'm going to go forward. It says this in Romans chapter 15, verse number 4. For whatever was written in former days was written for instruction. It's talking about, stuff in the Word. It says that through endurance and through encouragement of the Scriptures, you might have hope. Your hope is going to come from encouragement in the Scriptures. That's talking about reading your Bible. I just gave you that. And through endurance. That means having the fortitude to go, yeah, I ain't giving up. Some of you have already pieced out on missions that God has given you. And I'm saying this out of love, but some of you have quit. God gave you the mission to be a good dad, and you bailed on that. God gave you the mission to be a good son or a good daughter, a good mother, and you've walked out on that. Some of you, God gave you the mission to love your spouse and to put their needs ahead of your own, and you've given up on that. A lot of us, God gave us a family to love into, or maybe you're in a classroom and he's given you a teacher or classmates or a job where you have coworkers or employees or bosses. He's given you the chance to have influence and to show love, but you've given up, you've walked away, you haven't had the endurance to complete that mission. I'm asking you to find something deep down inside of you that says, I'm not going to quit. God, give me a mission, and I promise I'm going to make it through your power. I'm not quitting this time. And if you've messed up in the past, that's not an excuse to stop trying. That's where you have to own it and say, God, forgive me for quitting. God, forgive me for screwing up. But in your power, I'm going to do better tomorrow than I did yesterday. Come on, praise emoji, somebody. It's hard for me to preach and not know what you're thinking. So type something in there. I'll go back and at least read it later, okay? I love you. I hope you know I'm just trying to encourage you here. This is something that Paul wrote to his protege Timothy in 2 Timothy, again, his second letter. I love this. He's going, hey, brother, listen, you need to have a testimony, and this is about endurance. He says, I fought the good fight. I put up a good fight. I didn't roll over. I didn't lay down. I didn't give up. I fought the good fight. I finished the race. God gave me a race to run. I finished it. I remained faithful. And then I love this. And now the prize that awaits me, the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on the day of his return. The prize is not just for me, but for all who eagerly look forward to his appearing. He's saying, listen, I'm going to get a prize because I've endured. I ran the race. I didn't quit. And what he's talking about, he says, this is a stinking marathon. Some of us want to run a sprint, and we're like, God, give me a job, and I'll just sprint it out real quick. And God goes, I gave you a marathon. It's going to take you your whole life, but you stay on the course. You run, and you run hard, and you trust me that at the finish line, I've got something big for you. And Paul's saying, it's not just for me. It's for anybody who's pursuing God. We all get this, but we all have to run the race, fight the fight. A lot of us are so afraid of a fight that we just say, God, don't use me. That's going to require a fight. I might get punched in the nose. And I just don't want to get punched in the nose. Well, nobody wants to get punched in the nose, but sometimes when you're looking to claim new territory, you got to go into battle. And God's got territory for you. And just like the Israelites way back in the Old Testament, they were too afraid to go into the land because of giants. I talked about this last week. You can go watch this message. They say, no, we don't want to take on giants. And they miss out on the promised land because they're too afraid of a fight. And God says, I'll give you the victory over the giants, but I need you to be willing to step onto the battlefield. And so the endurance of saying, what if I get punched in the face? Well, hey, you still need to know I'm going to fight the good fight. Well, what if I get tired? What if the race is long? You're going to run that race. And he ends it this way. He says, and that's why I know I have the prize, the thing that I'm looking for. So the question that we have to ask next, and it's the last question, is this. What is your prize? What's your prize? What is it that you value? Well, if we're going to get through this race, first we have to understand this. Hebrews 12, verse number 1, says this. Therefore, since we're surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down. If we're going to run, then we have to strip off the weights that slow us down. Nobody runs a marathon holding on to a barbell. That's just dumb. It's going to tire you out. Especially the sin that so easily trips us up. Let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us. If we're going to run and do this, we can't prize sin. If you value sin, it's going to be a weight that slows you down. If you value your own ego, if the thing that you prize most right now is how happy you can be, how much money you can make, how many people you can get to like you, you're prizing the wrong thing, you're valuing the wrong thing, and they will actually act as weights to slow you down. God has called you to be somebody who sacrifices your own desires in order to help others. And when you put yourself first, what you're actually doing is you're saying, God, you're not the God of my life. I'm the God of my life. And what I want and what I like is more important. And you will not have the spiritual goal or the spiritual victories that you're looking for as long as you keep setting your goals that way. So strip off, let go of the weights, the sin that drags you down. But then what else are we supposed to do? Well, Matthew chapter 6 says it this way if you're looking for a prize. Don't store up treasures here on earth. Don't make your prizes, your valuables, the thing that you're shooting for, don't make it something that you store up here on earth. We're talking about all the money, the popularity, all the things that only matter here on this planet. It says that's where moths eat them and rust destroys them. All the trophies you can get, all the cars and homes you could buy, all that stuff, it's going to either be stolen or it's going to rot away, is basically what that verse is saying. The next verse says this, instead, store your treasures in heaven where moths and rust cannot destroy and where thieves don't break in and steal. Because wherever your treasure is, what you really value most, wherever that is, that's where the desires of your heart will be. And God says he wants your heart. So if you will not pursue the earthly stuff and instead say the prize that matters the most, the thing I am going to pursue is going to be something eternal, something bigger, your heart will go after God, in which case you're more easily led in the correct path because your heart isn't looking for all the things that the world tells you to value. You're actually looking for something deeper, long-term, on the eternal level. Now your spirit can actually grow. So what do you value? Well, most of us, we value just what we can see around us. We value only the things that the television or our friends or our coworkers tell us to value. And we struggle because we think, well, I've got to get mine while I can. The world only has this earthly life to look forward to, so they pursue selfishness to the grandest level possible. But that's not what you and I are supposed to pursue. Why? Because we don't believe that all there is this earthly life. James chapter 4, verse 14 says this, What is your life? It's just a vapor that appears for a little while, for a little time, and then it vanishes away. Another version says it's a morning fog. That's what your life is here on earth. It's not that you and I get so wrapped up like, oh man, I just need more time. I've got X amount of years to get all the money and all the popularity and all the love and all the respect and all the things I can get here on earth. And God says, no, that's not what I'm giving you this time here on earth for. The time here on earth is for you to value something bigger than yourself, something that only I can give you. When you value that, you understand your earthly timeline is just a vapor. It just appears and then goes away like a mist. But when you recognize that you exist on an eternal plane, then long after this life is over and you've taken your last breath, what are you really going to have to show for it? It better be your walk with me. It better be your time saying yes to God instead of yes to self. This is why we struggle, because either we're not available, or we're not prepared, or we're not determined, or we prize the wrong thing. And what we're called to do is we're called to be a blessing, not to ourselves. We're not to go get and bless ourselves. We're called to bless others. You will find an eternal reward, a heavenly reward, when you begin to give your life to bless others. When you don't think what would make me happy, you say, God, what would make you happy in his life or in her life? Why don't you make 2021 the year where you bless others? Where you go out of your way to bless the people that God has put in your life. Why don't you bless your mom or dad this year? Why don't you bless your children this year? Why don't you look at your spouse or your friend and say, I'm going to be the absolute best friend I can to them. I'm going to do everything I can to bless them to bring God glory. What if that was your mindset? What if you looked for ways to bless your coworkers, your teammates, your teachers, your bosses, your neighbors? What if 2021, what if this new year, what if it gave you an opportunity to bless your enemies? Yeah, I know. Ooh. But you can do it, and God has that for you to do. And when you begin to bless others, you're going to see not just an eternal reward, you're going to begin to touch into the very fabric of God's design for your life. You're going to begin to see what it is that he has for you on a whole nother level. So today I want to introduce you to somebody, and I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but I wanted to make sure that you got a chance to meet them, or at least hear from them. And it's a way that some of you have already been a blessing and you didn't even know you were being a blessing. You were just being obedient to God, and there's a lesson there. If you just say yes to God, he will use you to bless other people. And I believe he's used many of you to bless the people I'm going to introduce you to, and to bless the people that they're trying to be a witness to. See, what happens here at Harbor.Church is if you ever give $1 in one of the offering boxes, if you ever donate online, if you ever text in an amount, any way that you ever give, before Harbor.Church ever pays a bill, before we ever do anything with the money for ourselves, we give away off the top anything that comes in. And we've done that because God has called you and I to do that individually. Every paycheck, every time we get any kind of bonus, anything that we get that's just a direct blessing from God, we take off the top and we give it away to God, and we say, God, you use it however you want to use it. Before I take what's there and use it for myself, God, you use this because it all comes from you. And so what we've done at Harbor.Church is we've asked missionaries to take the gospel to places that we can't go. And this year you gave, and we've already got several missionaries that we support all over the planet, but we didn't really have somebody down in South America. And I heard about this family, a young man named Elmo and his wife Kat and their son, and they're the Comptons, and they are missionaries to Peru. And they're doing a great job. They planted a church, just like we planted Harbor here on the Cape. They planted a few years ago. So they're also part of a baby church that they planted. And we have been sending them money and blessing them because you're using what God has given you to bless somebody. And then through blessing the Comptons, we've now empowered them or helped them go and bless the people in Peru, because you and I can't do that. They can. So I wanted you to know, as you've been saying yes to God, and maybe it didn't make sense to you to tithe off of your paycheck. Maybe it didn't make sense to you to give up money when you could have gone and spent it at Dunkin' and got yourself something. You said, no, I'm going to give this to God. When you do that, you don't even know some of the people that you've helped. And there's people that you'll never meet that the Comptons have reached out to and blessed because of your generosity. And so I'm proud of you for doing that. And I wanted you to be encouraged by the newest missionaries that Harbor.Church has added in 2020, and that we're looking forward to seeing what God's going to do through them and through their ministries down in Lima and in Peru. I want you guys to take a quick look at this video and hear from our newest missionaries.
Good morning, Harbor.Church. We are super excited to be with you today on the first Sunday of 2021. My name's Kat, and along with my husband Elmo and our son Cinco, we're missionaries in Lima, Peru. Now, our son isn't with us today because he chose to stay with his grandparents instead of coming with you guys. We're really sorry that you guys don't get to meet him, but we want to tell you a little bit about him. Our son is 9 years old, and he, for as long as we can remember, he has wanted to be a zoologist. Now, while other kids change their mind about what they want to be when they grow up, our son has never really changed. He's always wanted to be a zoologist. And so in our family, we watch a lot of National Geographic. We watch it all the time, whether we like it or not, and we learn very random facts about different animals all over the world. And so one of those times that we were watching National Geographic, we were watching about a pride of lions that was going around looking for food, looking for what they could eat. And so they came across a herd of water buffalo. And in the process of trying to go after the water buffalo, they found one of those water buffalo that got separated from the pack, that got separated from its family, and it was broken and it was hurt and it was stuck in the mud and it was all by itself. And so the pride of lions, the lionesses, they divided into four corners, and they kind of did in this National Geographic, they did this above head shot, and you could see these lionesses divided into the four corners. And they waited for the day to go on. They waited for the sun to get hotter. They waited for the mud that the water buffalo was stuck in to harden. And then all of a sudden, it was almost like at the same time, they looked at each other and said, "Are you ready? Are you ready to go after the one that's broken, the one that's lost, the one that's hurt, and the one that's alone?" And that's exactly what missions is. That's exactly what missions is, going after the one that's broken, the one that's hurt, and the one that's lost, the one that's in need of Jesus Christ. Now, when we look at that whole idea of the four corners, over in one corner, when it comes to missions, you have missionaries just like Elmo and I serving in Lima, Peru. You have other missionaries that you support all around the world in one corner. Missionaries and churches that support other missionaries in one corner, and Harbor.Church in the other corner, all looking at each other all at the same time and saying, "Are you ready? Are you ready to go after that person who needs Jesus Christ?" Now, what you're about to see is not National Geographic. It's video and pictures of lives that have been changed because of Jesus Christ. Marriages that have been restored because of Jesus Christ. Families that were once broken now put together because of Jesus Christ. Because in God's kingdom, every one person matters. Y'all, it does not matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter your political affiliation. It doesn't matter your gender. It doesn't matter your social economic status, because you matter to God. In God's kingdom, every one person matters. Let's go to Peru.
This city, Lord, it is yours. 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 So break our hearts, break our hearts. This city, Lord, it is yours. So break our hearts, break our hearts. For the people who are far from you, break our hearts. And teach us to love the way you loved us. Send us out, send us out, and pour out your fire and flow through our lives. Send us out, send us out.
Good morning, church. Again, my name is Elmo, and those faces, the video that you just watched, those are some of the most important people to me. That video represents what my wife and I and our son have dedicated our lives to do. See, Kat and I believe that Jesus is the hope of the world. We just got done as a culture, as a church, as a family, celebrating Jesus, celebrating Christmas, celebrating what Jesus came to the earth to do. We believe that that message is the hope of the world. We also believe that the local church is the very best vehicle for getting that message to the masses. It was based on those two convictions that led Kat and I to pack up our family, move to another continent, began the process of learning another language, all in the hopes to establish local churches that would bring Jesus to the people. And those faces that you just saw are fruit of that ministry, fruit of that work, which is so incredibly cool. So incredibly cool. And I'm really excited this morning as you're here with us, there in your house, maybe at the office, or maybe sitting in the car, and you're tuning in and you're checking out what God has for you this Sunday, the first Sunday of 2021. And maybe you're thinking that you want 2021 to be a better year. Now, I know 2020 has been pretty challenging for most of us, and we're all praying that God has bigger and better things for us as we go into 2021. But my prayer for you is that you realize that your purpose and your goal is to be a missionary, to be an evangelist, to be someone who takes Jesus to the people who don't know about Jesus. And just like us in Peru, we went to Peru, we planted a church, we worked with several different orphanages. We have a ministry called a Lima Legacy Center. We have about 40 kids enrolled in a before and after school program. And all of these are just ways that we use, tools that we use to bring Jesus to the people. Just really quickly, I want to share a passage with you. There's this really cool story that begins in 2 Kings chapter 6. There's a city. If you'd like to take a look at it, if you've got your Bibles with you, take a look. We're in 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 24 and about 30 or 31. There's this city that is in this really difficult season in life. And they're dying. They've even gotten to the point where they've stepped into cannibalism. And the story is incredibly sad. They have an enemy at the gate, and they don't know what to do. The king is in mourning. The prophet doesn't have an answer. The city is just absolutely, desperately in need of a savior. But in 2 Kings chapter 7, verse 3, we see that the Bible tells us that there are 4 lepers. These 4 lepers are outside, and they look to one another, verse 3, and it says, "Why are we sitting here until we die? Let us enter the city." And so they said, if we go into the city, there's famine. If we stay here, we die. And they're like, what are we supposed to do? I know probably a lot of you this year thought that as we're going through all these different challenges, what in the world are we supposed to be doing right now? But God led them to do something incredible. See, God prompted them to get up from where they were and to go to the encampment of the Syrians. And the Syrians were the enemies that were attacking and sieging the city. These were vicious people. These were not people that were hospitable or people that were welcoming especially to the enemy. And these 4 lepers go into these encampments, and they find that nothing's there. They find that God had miraculously delivered them. And the first thing that they did is they take all the treasure that they found, they go out into the desert, and they bury it. And at first glance, you're like, why are we doing this? Why did we do that? See, these 4 lepers, they began when they found this miracle that God had given them. They forgot about the city. They forgot about the lost people. They forgot about the people that were dying, and they forgot about the people that needed salvation. But eventually, one of them looked to the other, down in verse 9, one of them looked to the other, and he said, we're not doing well. We don't do well. So they take this newfound blessing, this newfound generosity from God that God had given, this grace, this miracle that God had given to mankind, specifically to the city of Samaria, and they take this blessing and they go back to the city, and God uses that process to save an entire city. Maybe you're thinking, Elmo, why are you sharing that story with me? I'm here to tell you this. In 2021, let's be those lepers. Just like in the video that you just saw, there's an entire city, and there are cities like that all over the world that need Jesus, that need people just like you and just like me to take that message of hope, of deliverance, of peace, of salvation to them. And what's really incredible is it absolutely has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with those 4 lepers. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the message that we carry. It has everything to do with the healing power of Jesus, the salvation of Jesus. That is what's special. That is what we carry. So as we go into 2021, let's remember that our responsibility is to take the message of the gospel to our neighbors, to our city, to our country, to our community. I would invite you to check out some more of what Kat and I are doing. If you want to go to elmoandkat.com, it's all spelled out, and it's Kat with a K. Check that out. And there's some videos and some information about our Legacy Center, the church we planted that's called Mosaic Church, and also about the other ministries that we've been involved in. We'd love to answer any questions that you might have, but most importantly, I want you to remember that as you go into 2021, that our responsibility this year is to take the gospel to those that have never heard. Thanks so much for tuning in this morning. Thanks so much for taking this first Sunday and dedicating it to Jesus, dedicating it to God. We're excited for what's in store for both you guys and for us, and we can't wait to share more of it with you. God bless.
Man, isn't that great that God's using the Comptons to do something? He's blessing them and using them to bless others, and he's using you to bless them. How cool is that it goes? That's what I was talking about when I said lay up for yourself treasures in heaven. And this is a part of that. This is what we're doing, laying up treasures. Because anytime you give up your time or your talent, use your testimony or your treasures, your money, anytime you take that and you use that to bless somebody else, that's laying up treasures in heaven. That's prizing something much more than what this world has to offer. And so here's what I want to challenge you to do. One, of course, pray for Elmo and Kat. Pray for their family. Pray for their ministries, the things they're doing down there in Lima and in Peru. Pray for them to be used by God. And then I want you to also recognize that they are fulfilling what their role is in the Great Commission. And as you're looking and praying for your specific part, your specific goal, like, God, what do you have exactly for me in this new year? What's my new goal? As you're praying for that, realize that you're supposed to be a part of the overall big goal that God gave his church. In Mark 16, verse number 15, God says this. This is Jesus talking to his disciples, and he says this: go into all the world and preach the good news to everyone. Preach the gospel, the good news. Tell everyone in the whole world about Jesus. That's the Great Commission. Go into all the world and tell people the good news. Tell people that Jesus loved them and died for them. And tell people everywhere in the world, everyone, you don't get to be selective. Everybody gets to hear about Jesus. Well, you and I have to do that on an individual level. As many people as we can point to Jesus, we do that. And then for the places that we can't go and the people that we can't reach, then we need to empower and encourage other people to go to there. And if Elmo and Kat are willing to go to the people in Peru, or you take another missionary or another friend or another church, then we do that. We've simplified the Great Commission to say it in a way that makes it easy for people around here. And we say it simply this way here at Harbor.Church. Our mission is to connect people with Jesus and each other. God said, go make disciples. That means tell people about Jesus, help them experience the love of Christ, and then help them grow in that faith. Help them find a way to continue to connect with more people and share more Jesus with more people. That's our mission. And what we hope that does is bring a little hope for their journey. In order for that to happen, we have a mission that we can shoot for. And the mission that we can shoot for comes from a verse that Jesus uses when he sends his disciples out to start telling people. He does this in Luke chapter 10. It's the last verse for today. He says, this is his instructions. Guys, you're going out. The harvest is great, but the workers are few. The harvest is great. When it's harvest time, everybody goes out and you're trying to reap a crop, a harvest of stuff that was sown earlier. The harvest is great. There are people ready to come and know Jesus, but the workers are few. So our job is to pray to the Lord who is in charge of the harvest, the Lord of the harvest. Pray and ask him to send more workers into his fields. Very rarely are we ever given an exact prayer. And this isn't a prayer, and it says, this is what you're supposed to say to the Lord of the harvest. Send more workers. If you're looking for a small goal to start your year with, let's start there. God, send more workers into the harvest. God, there are people in our backyard that don't know you. Cape Cod is 97% without Jesus. Statistics say that 3% of the Cape and Massachusetts, New England even, don't know Jesus. 3% know Jesus, 97% don't. So why don't we start praying, God, use me, send me into a harvest field, send me out to represent you, and send other people. And if our hearts are, God, send other people, then we get excited about planting churches. We become passionate about helping other church planters and getting campuses and seeing our neighbors come to Christ. We get excited about sharing our testimony with our classmates or our coworkers. We become bold in our faith, and we begin to live out the light that God's called us to live and to be in a dark place. We get excited about that. And then when we get a chance, instead of keeping money for ourselves, we give it because we know, God, you're going to use missionaries and you're going to send people to go places I can't go. Because, God, I'm praying that you will send more workers, more harvesters into the fields. You said there's people out there waiting. God, use me and use other people and send. And if our hearts are there and if that becomes our goal, man, we get on board together. And there's no telling what God could do in this next year if the people that say they trust God become available and they're prepared and they're determined. And then they begin to value God's great commission over their own selfishness. Man, I'm excited for what's coming next. And each and every one of us have to find out in our own personal lives what it is God has for us to do individually. And then as a church, let's come together and do it working together, because we can accomplish more together. And let's watch what God does as more workers go into the fields and more people hear about Jesus and then follow after him. Man, how awesome will 2021 be? Let's pray. Will you pray with me? Dear Heavenly Father, Lord God, thank you so much for what it means to have you in our lives. God, I pray for the person under the sound of my voice that doesn't know you, that doesn't have a relationship with you. God, I pray for the person that hears this message and is looking for a mission, is looking for a goal. God, I pray that right now in this moment, they would start by building a relationship with you, that they would start by inviting you into their life. God, you told us that if we would humbly acknowledge that we can't fix us, that only you can fix us, God, you said that if we would get out of the driver's seat and let you be the Lord of our life, let you call the shots, God, you said that you would save us and you would forgive us. So, Lord, I pray that over any person right now who does not know that, who has not done that, that they would invite Jesus Christ into their life and find the forgiveness that only he offers. God, I ask for every single other person who already knows you, who already claims to be a believer, a follower of yours. God, I pray that each and every one of us, no matter how much we've messed up, no matter how old we are, how broken we are, how inexperienced we are, God, I pray that you would use us to complete some new goals. God, that we would go on mission for you. And we know the big mission for the church is that we would tell everybody about Jesus. God, would you use us in small ways and individual ways? And then, God, would you use us as a group of believers that have come together at Harbor.Church? Would you use us in some big ways to make impacts, God, to plant more churches, to see more people come to know Jesus? God, would you use us as we say yes to you? Would you bless us? Not for us to get the glory, but for you to get the glory, God. Would you help us not lay up treasures here on earth and not become consumed with selfishness and idolatry here, God, but instead focus on what it is you have for us throughout eternity as we look to bring you glory with all the stuff that we do here. God, we thank you and we praise you, and we ask all of this in your perfect and holy name. Amen.